Number 7. Dark kitchens of the food delivery industry. In today's increasingly fast-paced life, food delivery has become almost indispensable. With just a few taps on a smartphone screen, a hot meal can arrive at your door within half an hour. As early as 2017, China's food delivery market was already processing more than 10 million orders per day. This convenience, woven into everyday meals across all seasons, was cast under a harsh spotlight during that year's 315 Consumer Rights Gala, exposing a truth that shocked the public. Reporters visited a hidden food processing site in Tongzhou, Beijing, where 5 delivery-only restaurants operated out of a single space. There was no storefront, no dine-in area, just a cramped room barely a dozen square meters in size. Thick black grime clung to the walls, and cloths indistinguishable from either chopping boards or rags were stained dark with filth. Undercover footage revealed that the operators lacked licenses and permits. Expired frozen meat was piled directly on the floor, just inches away from trash bins. Yet these same ingredients were quickly transformed into best-selling signature rib rice dishes on delivery platforms. Even more alarming, a marketing manager from a well-known delivery platform was caught personally instructing vendors on how to fabricate addresses and Photoshop clean storefront photos, all to speed up onboarding and meet performance targets. These illegal kitchens were far from isolated cases. Investigation data showed that at the time, nearly 30% of merchants on major platforms lacked food operation licenses, while the practice of one license, multiple virtual stores was widespread. In a Shanghai basement, 5 delivery brands with different names shared a single business license. Inside, shirtless operators prepared food in suffocating heat, mixing cold dishes with bare hands. Rotten vegetable leaves were picked out only to have the rest tossed back into meals. Food ingredients and household items were piled together chaotically, while the air filled with the choking mix of oil fumes and coal gas. Even electric fans stirred up visible dust and debris. Delivery riders were long accustomed to such scenes. In their unofficial survival guides, one rule was clear: be cautious of orders with basement or second-floor addresses. These moving witnesses had seen the most unfiltered reality of back kitchens. Platform bidding systems further enabled these black kitchens to thrive. Exposure was openly priced. Those who paid more appeared on users' homepages. For underground workshops willing to spend, filthy realities could be easily masked behind polished listings. One rider revealed a fried chicken shop hidden in a corner of a wet market. Its platform photos showed bright, spotless interiors, but in reality, it sat next to overflowing trash bins, with greasy runoff dripping onto delivery boxes. Yet its monthly sales exceeded 20,000 orders. As consumers chased discounts and promotions, few realized they may be eating pickled vegetables cured with industrial salt or reheated expired meat. The night the scandal broke, Beijing regulators launched overnight inspections, and platforms urgently removed hundreds of thousands of listings. Yet the shock alone could not solve everything. Today, rider-based photo reporting systems are being rolled out nationwide, and regulatory oversight continues to tighten. Still, the true line of defense requires platforms to abandon traffic-first thinking, businesses to uphold ethical bottom lines, and consumers to adopt zero tolerance toward food safety violations. Number 6. Exploding watermelons. Cracked fruit is usually nothing unusual. But in one year, in Dala village of Yanling Town, Danyang, Jiangsu Province, this ordinary phenomenon turned into a devastating disaster. Watermelons, symbols of harvest and hope, suddenly became landmines inside greenhouses, detonating one after another. Dozens of farmers were plunged from optimism into despair overnight. At 5 in the morning, farmer Lu Minshua entered his 47 mu of watermelon fields as usual, only to freeze in shock. More than 80 watermelons had already exploded, their pale flesh exposed and juice spilling across the ground. By afternoon, the number exceeded 100. By the next day, he could no longer bear to count. Many of the watermelons were not even ripe, ranging from just 1 or 2 pounds to nearly 8 pounds. Still attached firmly to their vines, they appeared to have burst from internal pressure. Lu's wife crouched in the fields, pointing in disbelief to melons that had exploded moments earlier. These were not rotten, nor crushed by footsteps. They had split open on their own, scattering like living creatures torn apart. The family had invested 180,000 yuan in savings and borrowed another 80,000, hoping for returns of 5,000 yuan per greenhouse. 47 greenhouses, 250,000 yuan. What they believed would pay off in 1 year was instead reduced to shattered fragments. Lu was not alone. Over 20 households in the village planted nearly 700 mu of watermelons, with at least 5 suffering severe losses. Another farmer, Pan Hepping, invested 260,000 yuan into more than 50 mu, watching helplessly as each explosion felt like a crushing blow to the heart. The village had followed unified practices, shared seedlings, hired technicians, standardized spraying. Everything appeared professional. So what turned watermelons into bombs? Investigators discovered that just 1 day before the explosions, technicians instructed farmers to use a growth enhancer called Shitian watermelon expansion agent, promising larger, sweeter fruit and doubled yields. The very next day, disaster struck. Experts later explained that such agents should only be used during early fruit-setting stages, not when melons are nearing maturity. Uncontrolled cell division, uneven pressure, combined with rain and soil moisture, caused internal expansion so severe that the melons burst at the slightest trigger. Although experts stated there was no direct evidence the agent harmed humans, few were willing to risk consuming such experimental produce. Moreover, the chemical had long been abandoned in Japan, but continued to be widely promoted in China, where small-scale farmers struggled to apply it properly, turning misuse into a hidden danger. Even more concerning, plant hormones were not limited to watermelons. Grapes, strawberries, kiwi fruit, nearly every fruit marketed for plumpness and sweetness, have been subjected to similar manipulation. In forcing nature to accelerate beyond its limits, growers pushed both plants and consumers to the edge of risk. Number 5. Pit-fermented pickled vegetables. You may never imagine that your favorite pack of traditional pickled vegetables was once fermented in a dirt pit in a farmer's field. This was not fiction, but a reality exposed by CCTV's 2022 3/15 gala. Multiple companies in Hunan province were found purchasing so-called pit-fermented pickles as raw materials. These vegetables were not fermented in stainless steel tanks, but piled into earthen pits. Workers, some in slippers and others barefoot, trampled the vegetables. Some smoked nearby, flicking cigarette butts directly into the piles. The scene resembled sewage, sludge more than food production. Even worse, local oversight failed to conduct strict hygiene inspections when these pickles were repurchased. The raw pit-fermented vegetables were then mixed into products labeled as traditional jar-fermented pickles and sold to major brands. After the broadcast, public outrage exploded. Related topics amassed over 1 billion views online. Major brands rushed to respond, terminating supplier relationships, sealing raw materials, and cooperating with investigations. Factories were shut down overnight, regulators intervened, and media coverage intensified. Bare feet, cigarette butts, dirt pits. These images shattered consumer trust and sent shockwaves through capital markets. Fines totaling nearly 9.9 million yuan were eventually imposed. Production resumed only after penalties were paid and inspections passed. Yet public concern did not fade. Why had such practices persisted for so long? The answer lay in severe supply chain loopholes and weak enforcement. The scandal served as a warning. Even major brands can harbor gray zones within their supplier networks. Consumers may feel disgusted, but the real question remains unanswered. When will the next incident occur? Number 4. Counterfeit nut and energy drinks. Walnut and peanut drinks sound nutritious, yet some contain not a single walnut or peanut. Exposed during the 2018 3/15 gala, these beverages were found to be mixtures of stabilizers, sweeteners, preservatives, and water, finished with a few drops of artificial nut flavoring. A single barrel of concentrate could produce 8,000 bottles of finished drink. This was not food, but chemically engineered liquid. To sell them, counterfeiters perfected packaging deception. Knockoff brands mimicked famous names so closely that even careful consumers could be fooled. These products flowed into rural areas and lower-tier cities with weaker regulation and higher price sensitivity. From fake lemon sodas, nearly identical to Sprite, to counterfeit energy drinks mimicking Red Bull, low-cost formulas replaced safety and efficacy with profit. This was not a scattered problem, but a mature underground industry involving packaging plants, printing factories, and small food workshops. Like weeds, they grow endlessly. For consumers, it is a war fought without warning.